Yo, what's going on, yo? Welcome back to Practice the Podcast, where we fuse research and culture to help you develop the mindsets, the habits, the skills that you need in order to live out your purpose with confidence. I'm your host, Dr. Rees. Now it's time to get better, y'all. Let's grow.
We talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
Practices are meant to be competitive. They're meant to be competitive. If your practices are more competitive than the games themselves, you're doing the wrong thing.
Y'all, I'm so excited, like always, to be able to come back and speak some inspiration, some motivation to empower you to be your best self and ultimately to live out your purpose with confidence. This episode, we are going to dive deep on self-awareness. Like, we are going to get to know thyself that much more, and the best way to be able to go about it and how it relates to authenticity, because they really go hand in hand. It's kind of like one of those chicken and the egg kind of deals. Like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't know. I'm not here to argue that, but I do have a lot of thoughts when it comes to self-awareness and authenticity and how they relate and how they both empower us to really be our most confident selves, because I don't believe that you can be your most confident you without self-awareness and without authenticity. Like, they're all besties that kick it all the time that really enable you to just live your best life possible because you're living your life being you. So when we think about this, the quote of today's episode is, "You can't be you if you don't know you." You can't be you if you don't know you. And the reason why this is the quote is because, like, self-awareness is the act of getting to know self more. Self-awareness is the act of intentionally seeking to discover who am I and how do I show up. Let me say it again. Self-awareness is the act of intentionally trying to discover who am I, how do I show up. And the thing about self-awareness is it's a forever and always, and it's just a forever and always. Like, you're never not going to have to figure out how to be self-aware. It's a complete constant. Like, self-awareness is it's a top morning, like I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe self-awareness. And it's really just like, it just is. Self-awareness just is. And the thing about self-awareness is, like, the older you grow, there's always an awareness that you'll have about self. But the key component in being able to make self-awareness powerful is the management aspect. Now, we're not going to dive. We might dive a little bit deep. You never know. Like, I be having notes, but sometimes I be like, all right, boom, because I be like, God, I just need you to speak through me. So we're going to start somewhere. We might go somewhere else, still on topic, but it might be deeper than what I initially intended for it to be. But I want you to keep those concepts at the top of your mind: self-awareness and self-management. And these are two key components when it comes to being and having emotional intelligence. And what we talk about here at UIsh is being emotionally confident. But our focus for this episode is self-awareness and its relation to authenticity and its relation to being confident, always, right? And so to be self-aware is to be cognizant of who you are, right? Like we talked about a couple episodes ago, curiosity. To be self-aware is to be curious about you. And so I don't think that you can truly be authentic and be your most authentic self if you are not engaging in intense and intentional self-awareness. And so you can't be you if you don't know who you are. And authenticity is being you, your truest form of self. And you can't be that if you aren't being aware of who it is and how you're showing up, right? Like, not just who am I that's showing up, but how am I showing up, which is a real big deal. Like, in terms of energy and just energy as a whole. So let me not try to go super deep, because y'all know me, I just jump off the deep end and just make that joint happen. So I'm gonna go backwards real quick. Self-awareness is, I'll say it this way, like, my journey when it comes to self-awareness has been intense. And I think, and I believe that's why I like to encourage other folks to go on this journey because, and I like to explain it this way, is like, you might be self-aware that you get angry, that you pop off, but if you don't know why you do those things, then you don't have the ability to manage those things in the future. And sometimes you might not even know that you do certain things. And this is where like community and other people and asking questions and coaches and counselors and just friends and all of that are very valuable when you're going on your self-awareness journey, because like you might not notice that you do something because it's just you being you. And so it's important to ask a question to somebody like, what have you noticed about me? Have you noticed that I do this? Or tell me something about me. Or where you start to journal or you video log or you do anything that's like tracking who you are, right? Over a time period, because then you get to go back and look and be like, yo, I never even noticed, or look how much I've grown. And I've personally have done this in multiple different ways. I've asked people like, how do you think I've grown over the last decade? How do you think what areas do you think I need to grow in? Do I still do this? What are some things that come up for you? How do you think about me? When you think about me, what comes up? When I think about me, what comes up? Like, I'm forever asking questions about myself to myself and to others that do life with me, because I want to be as self-aware as possible. Now, this journey is not easy. Because one time I asked somebody, this was a couple years ago, like, tell me, how do you think I've grown over the last decade in a specific area? And I talked about this now 2 weeks ago or 2 episodes ago, and they were like, you've grown in your humility. And I was like, bet. Now, you can think about that. I felt that in 2 different ways. I was glad to hear that. But it also was like, you're right. I really just struggled with humility, and I still struggle with humility. It's something I never won't. But for them to tell me that I grew in humility made me feel really good, because I've been trying to intentionally grow in that area. So I've been more self-aware about how I show up in spaces. How does my energy show up? How do I show up in conversations? Do I think I'm a know-it-all? Am I trying to be arrogant? Do I think I'm better than other folks? Like, do I feel like I'm living on a high horse? Like, all these different things I had to be really intentional about to become self-aware about, because I was trying to unlearn a lot of different things in order to relearn different things, in order for me to go from being cocky to confident. And it took this intense self-aware journey of figuring out, how do I show up? Who am I when I show up? Do I switch up when I show up? That's a big one, right? Do I switch up when I show up? How many of us switch up when we show up? And I'm going to talk more about this in a couple episodes when it comes to like self-trust, but I want you to ask yourself this question, like, do I switch up when I show up depending on the people I'm showing up for and with? And that's something for you to be self-aware of, because if I switch up every time I'm showing up, then that must mean the people I'm showing up for, and it doesn't necessarily mean friends I'm showing up for, but just spaces I'm showing up in. If I have to switch up who I am and I can't authentically be me when I show up, I think there might be a problem there. Now, we can argue that down in a couple different ways on how code switching is necessary. I'm not talking about code switching. I'm talking about just people we do everyday life with. I'm not talking about in the professional setting. But even sometimes there, I don't know if I want to go there right now due to timing. And I think that's sometimes more of a conversational piece, but code switching, I think, is necessary. I think sometimes it's a boundary, it's a protective thing, but it's necessary to talk about here, but I'm not going to elaborate on it too much. Where code switching is valid because, especially as Black and brown folks, it's the safest thing to do. Not everybody works in spaces or in spaces where work specifically where it's psychologically and physically safe for them to be them, right? Where certain spaces don't understand your culture. But this again points back to the importance of you being self-aware. Like, are you aware of how you're showing up when you have to code switch and what that may look like? So I'm going to put a pin in that because I'm going to just make that its own episode at a later day. But definitely know that self-awareness is key if you're going to code switch or need to code switch, because the culture and environment that you're in work-wise isn't safe enough for you to be 100% authentically you. Because let's be frank, right? I don't know, be frank. Let's just be honest. Being authentic is not always the safest thing for people to be in certain spaces, which is why self-awareness is that much more important, because you can feel when you're starting to be and act and show up a certain way. Self-awareness is a feeling, right? It's a journey, but it's also a feeling. It's obviously an awareness, but when you're aware, that means you're alert. That means you're in tune. Sometimes I be feeling like I need to slow down, like I'm speaking too fast. So I wish somebody leave me a comment somewhere that be like, yo, or text me, DM me something like, yo, I love the podcast, but I just need you to slow down. Because I just get so excited and I speed up and I need to slow down. So let me slow down a little bit. Self-awareness or the term and definition, right? The research aspect of this is a continuous knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. So a continuous knowledge, right? Awareness is the knowledge piece of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. And the reason why self-awareness is so important to authenticity is because you will change. You don't need to ask anybody permission to change. You will change. You're going to change. But that don't mean you're going to grow, right? Like change is inevitable, but growth is optional. And that's something that's important for you to know, right? Change is inevitable, but growth is optional. So you will change as you grow. Think about how many folks you've heard of in spaces where they're like, oh, the wording don't work here, but I'm going to still say it, right? We grew apart. Like we changed, he changed, she changed, I changed. We're just different people, right? So a lot of folks will get in relationships and then however many times down the road, they're like, oh, we just grew apart. And because we grew apart, we ended up literally separating. And I think it's important to know when you're being self-aware. And that's not just to intimate sexual relationships, but that's to like intimate friendship relationships, platonic relationships. Like you grow apart, like people grow and change and become different. And they recognize like, we don't have the same connections we used to have. We don't like the same things we used to like together. Like we're not doing life together the way that we used to because we're just different people. And it takes self-awareness to be able to acknowledge that, recognize that, and see that I'm not who I used to be. So this relationship may not be serving me as well as it used to. And that sucks. Let me say it like this. It sucks, but it's necessary. It sucks because now you go into kind of a grieving process of grieving that past relationship, but it's also dope because you have the awareness over yourself to be able to say, I'm just not who I used to be anymore. And that's okay. And if you need and still want this old relationship to serve you, then you have to figure out what does that look like right here, right now in this time and space, right? So if awareness is a continuous knowledge, this is why it's a journey. If awareness is a continuous knowledge, continuous literally means it's going to be a journey. In wanting to grow in cognitive knowledge of what is my character? Like, who am I? Like, am I a bully? Am I mean? Am I spiteful? Am I pessimistic? Am I optimistic? Am I kind? Like, what is my character? Am I a person of integrity? Like, and this is, man, dog, I'm still trying to get out the intro almost in this. But it's important to know, like, who do I want to be? When I do sessions, I ask this question, especially with youth and young adults all the time. Like, who are you and who do you want to be? Because when I know who I am and I know who I want to be, my character is embedded in that piece. And when I know my character, I know when I'm not showing up how I want to show up. I know I'm not showing up as me. Or I can say, man, like that's a me that I'm not trying to be anymore. And I can apologize to myself and to others for that. And so knowing your character, knowing who and how you want your character to be is a great exercise because then you know if you're showing up in a way that meets your personal standard, right? And when you don't, you apologize, you ask for forgiveness, and then you move on, right? Because it's a growth process, right? And so the feelings and the motives, goodness gracious, the feelings, the motives and desires, we could spend a whole 3, 4, 5 episodes on that. And the reason why understanding your feelings, your motives, and your desires is so important and so key is because they guide you. They lead you. They empower you. They push you. They kind of tell you where to go. They're your filters. Your feelings, motives, and desires are the things behind your reason why. They're the push behind why you do what you do. So if my feelings, motives, and desires aren't in alignment with who it is that I want to be, or I have feelings, motives, and desires that arise that I don't want to continue to empower me in a certain way, or I don't want them to lead me down a certain path, like jealousy may be a feeling, envy may be a feeling, a desire might be, I want to achieve and live out this certain life. Cool, that everybody's entitled to that desire. But then now I may have a feeling when I see somebody else doing that thing. I have to be aware of myself when I see somebody living out a life that I want to live, which is going to induce a feeling in me, right? Connected to my desire. Now here's the motive. What am I going to do next? Think about it like this. Have you ever been cool with somebody just because they're cool with somebody else? Or have you ever been cool with somebody that you know they can attack, you can get something from them to help elevate you, right? Like your motive in your heart wasn't in the right spot in the first place, right? Like you're only cool with them because of what they can do for you. That's a motive. So because what they can do for you is a desire, the motive is I'm cool with you because of what you can do for me. And then I have these feelings and desires that are attached to it. And if you're not aware, and the reason why I say it like this is that's not cool, right? I think like as a human beings, we understand that's not cool. That's not how we want to operate. Like we don't want people around us like that, because if those are your motives, your energy, your decision making is going to be altered. Now you're not really loyal. You're not trustworthy. I know you're not here for the right reasons. Your heart ain't in the right spot. So it's going to impact how you move when we're moving together, right? And nobody wants to do life with nobody like that. So you have to be able to make sure you check your heart and say, ooh, what are my motives with engaging with this person? What are these person's motives when it comes to engaging with me, right? Because you might be on the other side of that. Right? What are my motives with doing this, with going there? Am I trying to do this or go there just because of, right? It makes me think of Drake has a song and it talks about like this one girl, she went to Rome and then like she took a lot of pictures, and when she came back home, like she just kept posting the pictures so it could look like she was always on the go. And again, motive, it was like, am I just doing these things just for IG to make it seem like I'm always on the go out here doing things? Like, is my motive just to give off a certain look? Is my motive just to give off a certain allure of life and what's going on? And I think that is why being self-aware is so important, is because it helps you check your motives. When you're self-aware, you understand when your heart is and isn't in the right place. And peep this, if it's not in the right place and you are aware of that, then you just have the conversation with yourself. It's not about, ooh, my heart's not in the right place, so I must not be worthy or good enough, or I'm a bad person. Absolutely not. Like your heart will shift sometimes in the wrong place because you're human and it's natural. But if you're not aware of when your heart is doing that, when you're not aware of your motives and your desires and your feelings, it's easier for you to act out of that place when your heart's not in the right place than to be like, ooh, my heart ain't in the right place. And I'm only doing this to make somebody jealous. I'm only doing this to make somebody envious. I'm only doing this because I'm insecure. I'm only doing this because, or I'm not doing this because of fear. You have all these reasons. Then you can sit and say with yourself, ooh, I feel that. It don't feel good. I acknowledge it, but let me do the work to get my heart back in the right place. And then I act from there. But if you're not self-aware, it's a wrap. You're off to the races. And we literally see people doing stuff like this all the time, every single day. I mean, social media gives us a front row seat to people's lack of self-awareness. Like, bro, how did you? And people don't know. They don't have answers because they just simply lack self-awareness. And so this is why I urge of you to grow in self-awareness. All right, let me recap all of that so we can move forward and dive deeper into this. The overall and moral of the self-awareness story is this. I want you to see yourself as the most important case study in your life. And what I mean by case study simply is I want you to become a researcher of self. Become a researcher of self, because when you are committed to researching you and you see yourself as a case study, you're always trying to learn more about you. And you're doing it with a non-judgmental eye. You're doing it with a lens of forgiveness and grace and freedom. And when you do that, you're just learning more about you on a continual basis. And when you're committed to learning more about you, who you are, how you are, why you showed up, how you used to show up this specific way, how you want to show up, when you're inquisitive about you, when you're curious about you, you're going to grow in your self-awareness. And then we take action. So when I'm self-aware and then I'm committed to taking action, that is what I like to call self-leadership. And I believe you can't authentically and purely be the person you want to be and were created to be if you don't know how to lead yourself. If you don't have a sense of self-leadership, you're not going to be able to truly be authentic in relation to the self-awareness that you've discovered. So you're the most important case study. And if you see yourself like that and you become a researcher, if you're like, oh, I'm not an academic, hear me out. What I mean by researcher is think about anytime you've gotten caught up in one of those rabbit holes on social media because you want to learn more about something. Think about if you like to read and you get hooked on a series. If you like to watch TV and you get hooked on a series, or you binge watch. I want you to binge watch you. I want you to binge read you and study and go on a rabbit hole of you. Because when you have a researcher lens to grow in continuous knowledge of self, it's going to all rise. You're going to get to the root and it's going to rise, and you're going to have so much aha moments. And those aha moments will change your life, because then you have the ability to take the next step, which is growing in your self-management and your self-leadership that allows you to dictate how you show up. And when you have the cognitive awareness of how you show up and how you want to show up, and you have the skill and the strength to manage that from a leadership stance, that is what empowers your authenticity. And that, my friend, is fire. So here's the thought process, or a question I have for you is, are you aware enough to be who you want to be? Are you aware enough to be who you want to be? Now, this question is interesting because a lot of folks aren't aware enough of who they are, and so they're being somebody they don't want to be. And what's crazy about this is we always talk about peer pressure for kids, but a lot of adults is peer pressured in being grown adults, peer pressured by society, by social media, by the workplace. Obviously social media, and I'm not making social media the issue. Social media is just a platform where we put a lot of our lives on. And so somebody may not be pressuring you hey, do this, hey, smoke this cigarette. You know what I'm saying? Somebody may not be pressuring you like that, but somebody may be peer pressuring you from a sense of displaying and showing, or you might be peer pressuring yourself in a way. Right? Social media pressuring yourself to where you're not even recognizing that you're allowing your desires to be cultivated and influenced in a way, social media influencer, right? To do things that you're not really, you don't even really want to do it. In your heart of hearts, you may not even really want to do what you're doing. And this is why you have to ask yourself this question is am I aware enough to be who I want to be? And being who you want to be is connected to doing what you want to do. as a family, we watch these like baking shows. The Netflix, the baking and the easy bake and the cooking and all the we love the cooking easy bake shows, right? And we've been watching the last couple episodes. And last night I said to my love, I was like, man, a lot of these people got like parent issues. And they're all talking about my parents never believed in me, or my family never believed in me. They didn't think I'd be able to make anything out of this. And it feels so good to win and to be able to show and prove that like this is it. Or there's a story of like, I went off to law school and I went off to this college and I went off to do all these things because my family and my parents wanted me to. And this is something that is, I know for some cultures is like law. You do, right, these specific degrees. You do this. You do, if we come into America, then this is what you're doing. Or as this, right? Like I understand that from that sense. But I also am empowering this that much more in this way of like, this is why it's so much more important to be self-aware, because you might be doing something and being somebody you don't want to be. And a lot of cats live a lot of their lives being something and doing things that they don't want to be. And so a lot of these folks on the show, they spend 20, 15, 20 years being and doing something and realizing like, this isn't who I want to be. This isn't what I want to do. And I only live that life because these people wanted me to be. And so until you get that aha moment, like I just talked about, and you grow in that self-awareness and then the strength to make a change, you're always going to be the other person. And that to me is you not being authentic because you're being somebody other than you, which is, again, points back to the importance of self-awareness. So self-awareness is deep and it's tough. Self-awareness is deep and tough. And what I mean by that is if you're going to take on the role of becoming a researcher of self, you're going to realize like, and depending on how old you are, like if you're 50, 60, shout out to the older, wiser generation that watches this podcast. I appreciate you. Or if you're like younger, I don't know, 10, 15, whatever, the older you are and the more life history, the more life you live, the more history you have, the deeper it is. The more things in life you've gone through, the deeper it is. Like some people have been through some things that are like atrocious and horrible, and my heart hurts for that. But everybody's been through something. And we're not here and we're not talking about measuring it, but the more you've been through, the more life you live, the older you are, the more adventurous or risk you've taken and all those different things, is the deeper your self-awareness is and the tougher it's going to be. Because at 33, there's a lot of things that I can sit down and just try to like branch off of and look at and analyze and research and like, oh my gosh. And it goes deep because the roots in the beginning of things are so tough. I talked about on a couple episodes ago of just like my self-awareness journey when it came to my sexuality and I almost said raciality, my sexually and racially, how I show up and how I identify and making peace with those things. And it's just so interesting, right? With like Black History Month and then Women's History Month and me living at the intersection, right? Of being a Black woman. And then in June is Pride. So it's like just, all these months together of my intersections. But the deepness in the wombs in the picture that I showed was like, that was like 5, 6, 7 years old. And so if I now as a 33-year-old look back at the impact of socialization on my life from 5 and 6, that's like 28 plus years of stuff. So that's what I mean by it being deep, right? Like you got to go back, and that's 365 times 28. That's a whole lot of days. So it's important for you to know that as you go on this self-awareness journey in order to increase being more authentic, that because it's deep and the deeper it is, the more tough it will be. And I paused there because I want to invite us into a space of commitment to this journey. of commitment to yourself, of commitment to, like, let this be the year that you get to know you more. Like, let this be the year that you say, I'm not putting me on the back burner again. I'm not burning me out. I'm not pouring all of me out to not have none left for me, and I don't even know who I am. I'm tired of waking up in the morning and being like, I don't even know who I am and why I'm living this life, right? Like, I'm not living the life I want to live. I'm tired of giving me last. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody else gets the rest of me or the best of me, and I get the rest of me, and I don't even want what's left of me. Like, come on, man. Like, I want this to be the year that you say, I'm going to grow in so self-aware that I start to lead myself in a way that empowers me to be unapologetically, authentically me. I want this to be your year that you commit to self-awareness so tough that you start to lead yourself in a way that you become unapologetically, authentically you. Like, no F's given. You're authentically and transparently you, and you're completely aware of who it is that you are. There's no mistakes. There's no huns. It's just, I know who I am. I'm showing up as me, and I'm taking pride in being that person. And I have a smile on my face because I'm continuing with confidence, and I know that I'm the bag. But if you don't take the time to be a researcher of self, this won't happen. So I need you to take the time. I need you to take the time out. I need you to take the week. I need you to take some time of rest. I need you to separate. I need you to take a retreat. Whatever it is that you need to do to figure out, how do I get to know me a little bit better? I need you to do that. And I need you to do it consistently. Consistently is the key, because remember, self-awareness is an act of continuous knowledge of self. So if self-awareness is continuous knowledge of self, then you need to consistently do something that helps you grow to know you more. Now, you can't take a retreat every single day. You can't go nowhere every single day, but you could take 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes to an hour to you every day to get to know you in multiple different forms. That's why we have the you-ish plan. That's what we talk about. What's my you-ish plan that I do that allows me to be able to get to know me on a daily basis consistently and continuously, because you're changing every day. My son yesterday, he said, he goes upstairs and he was like, wow, Arisa, you know, I'm just different. And dude's 7. He was like, I'm different. I'm going to be different in a couple weeks again. Because we talk about that. And I've talked about this before, but I kid you not, last night, he just same thing. Like, yo, I'm different. I'm changing. I'm growing. And that never stops. And okay, let me pull back. Okay. So here are some things I need you to think about when it comes to self-awareness being deep and tough. I want you to think about, again, being the researcher, but I also want you to think about, why are you the way you are? How do I show up? Do I show up in the way that I want to show up? Am I showing up in a way that doesn't require me to remove some of me? That doesn't require me to set some of me to the side? That doesn't require me to hand out and ration thirds of me because only certain parties like only pieces of me? I want you to think about, do I have the strength? Do I have the strength to do 2 things? To do the research, acknowledge the research, and then apply it. Do I have the strength to do the research, acknowledge the research, and apply it on me? Because remember, you're the case study. So do I have the strength to do it? And if I don't have the strength, I need to figure out, how do I get the strength? Because remember, this is a journey. Self-awareness is a journey. Growing and continually showing up and being yourself authentically takes strength. So do you have the strength? And if you don't have strength, I need you to figure out why. And in your figuring out why, what are you doing? You're growing more self-aware. You're growing more self-aware and figuring out, oh, this is why I don't have the strength. Okay, I need to be able to make these adjustments here. And that's it. That's all I'm asking you to do. I'm just asking you to do that because you need to do that, because you deserve to do that, because your best self is worthy of that. So here's the next thing, though. We talked about humility a couple episodes ago. And the reason why humility is important in relation to the authentic equation and formula is like, if you if you ain't humble enough to go down this road, you're gonna miss some things. If you're not humble enough, if you're not humble enough to go down this journey of self-awareness, you're going to miss out on some things. And I don't just mean miss out on things physically, tangibly in the world. I mean miss out on some things in you and your heart and your motives and your desires and your vision and your purpose. You're going to miss out on some things. So you have to humble yourself in order to say, okay, boom, I'm going to go on this journey to figure out who I am so I can really show up the way I want to, the way I was created to, the way I was designed to show up. But if you're not humble enough to be the researcher and take your time and patient enough to do it, it ain't gonna work out. So think about it like this, right? Like, because you change on a daily and weekly basis, what's stopping you, right? Like if because you change, I'll tell you this way. I'll go backwards real quick. Our taste buds change like every 2 weeks as adults. Like our taste buds change like every 2 weeks as adults, like on their own. And that is legit, which means you can train yourself to like certain things. So if you see it like this, my taste buds change every 2 weeks without my permission, and I can grow to like certain things, then you too can do the same thing when it comes to, I don't want to say anything, but certain areas, maybe discipline, consistency, commitment, right? Like maybe you're trying to change to grow to like something new that you know you want to like, but there's some irritation with it. Give yourself 2 weeks. Maybe you're like, I know I need to journal more. I know I should probably, meditate more or sit with myself. And I know I should. Give yourself 2 weeks. We change on a daily basis. And if you haven't checked in with you in over 2 weeks, then you're missing something. So just maybe you start with doing an every 2 week check-in, a bi-weekly check-in. Who am I? Am I the same person I was 2 weeks ago? You probably aren't. Want to know why? Because there's so much stuff happening in the world on a daily basis, whether it's at a macro level that may not directly, but some things do directly impact you. Maybe it's on a micro level and you're like, yo, like I didn't even like this happened and now it's that. Something happened at work and then now this, or this happened to that person. And then now it changes you. And so you have to go back and be like, yo, we're changing daily. And I don't take the time to sit down and recognize how I've changed over the last 2 weeks, then you're going to miss something. So are you going to commit to a bi-weekly check-in? You should commit to a bi-weekly check-in. And then I promise you'll probably like the bi-weekly check-in so much that you're like, you know what? I should do this all the time. I should figure out how to do this every single day. Right? Obviously, you diminish the time because it's less time, but like bi-weekly. And then maybe you start to do like a quarterly check-in. Again, all you're doing is trying to grow in a relationship with self that allows you to show up in a way that feels the best to you. That feels the best to you. So what does this look like, you ask? Well, here are some things that you can do in order to grow in your self-awareness, grow in understanding the feelings that feel best. And I want to talk about that real quick. The feelings that feel best. You know when something doesn't feel good. When something doesn't feel right. And there's a word and it's called discernment. And if you're not in tune with your discernment, you won't be able to trust your discernment. Your discernment will decrease if you're not in tune with you. And so the thing I need you to do is 2 things. I need you to listen to you more, and I need you to talk to you more. I need you to listen to you more and talk to you more. And when you do those 2 things, I need you to start watching what you do and how you do it. Listen, talk, watch. Again, because I told you a little bit ago that I need you to see yourself as the most important case study, and I need you to see yourself through the lens of a researcher. And now, as a researcher, again, it's non-judgmental. It's a sense of freedom. It has grace and forgiveness embedded in it. So you're going into the study and you're listening. So you're just sitting and you're listening. You know how many people struggle to just sit and listen and hear what they got to say? So if I just sat here and listen, and then you just allow different thoughts to pop up, and your mind is going to run. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again, right? The importance of or the key to meditation isn't to sit and make your brain go silent. That's not going to happen. Your brain's never going to shut off. It's for you to sit and hear, you see your thoughts, you hear your thoughts, and you're like, yo, I'm thinking about this a lot. I'm thinking about this person a lot. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking these things are coming to mind. I'm thinking about my to-do list, right? All the things are going to happen and they're going to happen. But your job is to be aware of them. When you're more aware of your thoughts, it allows you to figure out what thoughts you want to take action on. It allows you to figure out where did those thoughts come from? How did they get here? Do I want them to stay? Do I need to kind of be like, nah, I need to get away from these? Are these negative thoughts? Then you get to figure out who planted these negative thoughts. Then we get to discover where does imposter syndrome come from. But if you're not sitting and thinking about your thoughts or listening to your thoughts, you're not going to be able to figure those things out. So then the next thing is I want you to talk to you, because everything that I hear me say does not always align with truth. Everything that I hear me say does not always align with truth. When I sit and I hear myself talk, it's not always from truth. It's not always my thought. It's not always from a good place. It's not always to empower me. Sometimes my thoughts are mean, negative, nasty, disrespectful. They're just this because I'm a human. And so because I naturally have thoughts, and I think and we naturally have thoughts, and we get fed certain things from certain places, I may just think something and be like, why did I think that? Ooh, because I was watching this or listening to that, and that implanted that in my mind. So now once I take time to sit and listen, now I need to talk back. It's funny. I think about how many of us got in trouble for talking back in class, to our parents, to coaches, like, don't be talking back to me. Like, I get it, right? But I need you to talk back to you. I need you, when you have a negative thought or something that arises that goes against the grain, that's not in alignment with who you need to be and who you want to be, I need you to get real disrespectful and talk back. Like, I need you to talk back and be like, hold up, bruh. We're not doing that. Like, I need you to get like this energy about yourself that says, we're not doing that. We don't think like that. We don't talk like that. That's not us, right? Like we're not about that life. And I need you to take that thought captive and throw that joint away and speak to it, and then speak life into you, and speak power into you, and speak confidence into you, speak belief into you. So I can't be powerfully authentic and stand who I am and stand in my purpose and stand on purpose and on business if I'm not self-aware. So you have to take the time to sit and listen to your thoughts so you know which thoughts to talk back to, the thoughts that don't align with who it is that you were created to be, because there's thoughts that may just arise. Imposter syndrome. There might be thoughts of different depression and anxiety and fear that keep you caged up, and paralysis analysis and all these different thoughts that are going on in your mind. And if you don't say, stop, I'm not doing that no more. You don't get to think like that no more. We're not allowing these thoughts to control us anymore. If you don't do that, if you don't sit in that and you don't empower yourself in that, those thoughts will take over you. So I need you to listen, then I need you to talk, and then I need you to watch. Watch how you act. Now, you might be like, we're talking about some out-of-body experience. No, I'm not talking about having no out-of-body experience, but I kind of am at the same time. My son, he's so amazing. We were on our way to school the other day, and he was talking about something happening, and then he'll just make a mind movie. And I was like, a mind movie? That's fire. I said, what's a mind movie? And he was like, if I sit and I think it in my mind, and then, I play a movie. And I was like, I'm using that, right? So then fast forward, literally later that day, a situation comes up where he does something at school. And I was like, tell me about what happened. And I'm like, tell me what happened? I'll just tell you, bruh cut his hair, took the scissors, cut his hair. So he comes home and I'm like, bruh, why? Tell me, you cut your hair at school. Like, why? What happened? And he was like, I don't know. I just, my mind said that I should do it. And I was like, but I want to know, like, and I had to get super curious because, right, we didn't want to shame him. We didn't want him to feel, super bad about what had happened. So I was like, I want to get super curious about the situation. So I'm sitting down and I was like, oh my gosh, can you paint me a mind movie about what happened? Because, like, I want to experience this with you. So we're all sitting on the couch and I sit and I lay back and I'm like, okay, where were you? And he starts to tell me I was in class and I was like, was it like almost recess? Were you guys going to lunch? Like, what was going on? He was like, I was in class and we were reading. And I was like, and then what happened? And I just got real like, tell me, I want to be there with you. I'm curious what happened. And he goes, and then I just grabbed the scissors and I just cut it. And I'm like, bro, what? And it just is like kids. It's a kid thing. But in me telling him, give me the mind movie of what happened. It's doing two things. It's taking excess pressure off the situation from him, right? Like, we're not demeaning you. You're not in trouble. Like, thank God it was just hair. Last year he cut in sweats because I had the scissors and I never really had to. Like, it's new. Like, kids don't get to really play with this stuff outside of school, right? So he's getting familiar with something. So, and the funny thing is he was trying to cut a Z in his head like a design. When we was in middle school, we was cutting, I didn't do it, but everybody else was cutting things in their eyebrows. So it makes sense. But for him, he got to recreate the story of what he had just done and why he did it. So he got to take a step back, sit and look and see himself. He got to watch himself. But he also created a mind movie for me so I can sit there and see him doing it. I share that story and I say all that to say we need to do the same thing for ourselves. There are times and there's things that happen in all it just as you live and in this time frame in your biweekly check-ins where you got to sit down and you got to sit and you just have to watch make a mind movie, whether with your eyes open or closed. And you're just like, okay, so this happened and that happened and that happened and then this and boom. And why did I show up? As a speaker, this is something that I do afterwards, or before. Am I getting jittery? Am I getting nervous? Or like what's going on? And I'm trying to make a mind movie. And when you have the ability to watch how you do what you do and you can replay it backwards, it's going to give you great information to inform how you want to move forward. And so in order for me to show up authentically, I have to be able to look back at situations and times where I didn't show up authentically. In order for me to show up authentically, I have to be able to look back at times that I did not show up authentically. I also have to be able to look back at times that I did show up authentically and was like, okay, here's the difference between these two times. Here's the difference between these two moments. Here's the difference between how I felt. So I can catch the feeling on why. What was the motivatives? What was the influencer? What was the thought process? What was I feeling? What was going on? What was the difference between these two scenarios where I showed up authentically here, but I didn't show up authentically here? And how did I feel when I was in it? And how did I feel about it afterwards? And that's you gaining continuous knowledge over who you are. And when you have confidence in going through that process, then you can continually go through the journey with no judgment, straight freedom, forgiveness, and grace, and growing and being that much more authentic in who it is you are and who it is you want to be. So here's some things that self-awareness require. And we're gonna turn this thing on out. Okay. Here's some things that self-awareness requires. A release of judgment. We've talked about this. You will not allow yourself to be truly self-aware and open and vulnerable and transparent if you are judgmental with yourself. And I talked about this a couple episodes ago, like I need to continue to grow in releasing the judgment on me. The more I judge me is the more I'm going to judge others. And that just doesn't make for a good thing, right? So a release of judgment. Number 2, curiosity, right? The more curious you are and have a curious voice with you. The same way I just shared the story when it came to our son is like, I'm just curious. I'm just curious. I just want to know. with no malicious intent, no hidden motives. I just want to know, how did you, like, what happened and why did it happen? You know what I'm saying? Freedom. There's so much peace and joy and excitement, found in freedom. And you are free to be you. So figure out, like, how do I give myself permission and freedom to be me as I explore and grow this self-awareness. And the last one is grace and forgiveness, or last two, grace and forgiveness. And I've mentioned these so many times, and I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to create. Let me slow down and say this again. I cannot express and stress enough to you how important it is for you to create a judgmental, free. No, that didn't work. Let me say it like this. I cannot stress to you enough how important it is for you to create a judgment-free, a grace-ridden, forgiveness-driven, internal environment within yourself. When your internal environment, when your interpersonal relationship with you is judgment-free, and there is grace given, there is forgiveness given, there is vulnerability and transparency, you get to exude authenticity, which translates into confidence, which is what we're talking about. But if you are extremely judgmental towards yourself and you don't give yourself grace and you are slow to forgive, it's a wrap. You're not going to be able to grow in your self-awareness that leads to self-leadership, which then leads to authenticity. You will be so judgmental and so self-aware that you're only aware in order to increase your judgment. And if you're only trying to become more self-aware to increase your judgment of yourself, that's going to transfer and permeate to you onto other people. And other people will recognize that you're showing up with judgmental energy, not just for yourself, but also for them. And that's a problem. Because if I'm judging me more, I'm going to end up judging you more. And that's going to impact how we do life because your energy is going to precede you. And if you have judgmental energy, then you don't have humble energy. Then you can't have confident energy. Now you're not showing up as you. And that's going to impact all of your relationships, especially the relationship with yourself. So this is why I need you to create a peaceful internal environment that's judgment free, that has grace, that has forgiveness, that allows you to be transparent and authentic and vulnerable with you so you can grow in your self-awareness and you can then grow in your self-leadership, which then leads to authenticity, which then leads to confidence. So here are a couple things I need you to know. Or ask yourself, how do I engage in self-awareness work? How often do I engage in self-awareness work? Ask yourself, how often do I engage in self-awareness work? Can you commit to doing our bi-weekly check-ins? I think you should commit to doing our bi-weekly check-ins. If you do more, I love it. But if this is brand new to you, start here with the bi-weekly check-in. The second thing is, do you like who you've become? And this is a whole, I'm going to try not to go much longer than this, but like, I want you to ask yourself this question. Do you like who you've become? We get asked this question like, who do you want to be when you grow up? Or what do you want to be when you grow up? But like, how often do we ask, who do you want to be? And then if you were to turn around and ask your younger self and look back and look at you now is, do you like who you've become? Do you like who you've become? Can you authentically be like, I like who I've become. I rock with me. Or do you be like, I don't like who I've become. I don't like. And you just list the things and you go at it with that peaceful environment that you've created and figure out, okay, how do I break this down so I can become in the future who it is that I want to become? So I can be proud of who I've become. The last question is this. Or sorry, not the last question. This is what I want you to do. I want you to create a personal vision. Who do you want to be in the next 5 years? Not necessarily what do you want to achieve and accolades and money and different things like that, but like, who do you want to be? Right? In 5 years may be long. Maybe by the end of the year, here's some things you're working, but there might be a lot of work and things you got to analyze. I don't know, but I want you to think about it. A personal self-vision of who do I want to be? Put your character on the board, put your values on the board, put your habits on the board, and create that personal self-vision board, and that paints the you that you want to be and that you really want to strive and work towards over the next couple years. all these things are not easy by any means. And so that's what I'm saying. Over the next couple of years, you might just be able to tackle a couple things. Okay, I want to be more patient. Cool. That might take me a minute because patience, you get it? Patience, it's a pun, but for real, right? Like patience is tough. So just say, I'm going to intentionally just focus on being more patient. And I promise you, when you're focused on developing more fruit out of your heart, it's going to produce more fruit in other areas of your life. So let me wrap this joint up. Here's what I want you to know. You cannot be confident in being someone you weren't created to be. You cannot be confident in being someone you weren't created to be. You cannot be confident in being somebody other than yourself. You cannot be confident trying to be somebody else. You cannot be confident in being someone you don't know. So I need you to grow in your self-awareness so you can increase your self-leadership so that way you can live out your purpose with confidence. I appreciate you. I love you. I adore you. I thank you for being here. I thank you for listening. Now I need you to take action so we can get after it. We can continue to get better. I need you to remember 2 things, that you are the bag, and I need you to continue with confidence. I'm your host, Dr. Rees. Until next time, peace.